Lesson 2.4, Solving Equations with Variables on Each Side. In this video, you will learn to solve equations with a variable on each side and solve equations involving grouping symbols. Vocabulary for this section is just identity, identidad. Okay, so to solve an equation with variables on each side, we want to be able to get our variables together on the same side. So in order to do that, first thing we're going to do here is subtract 5c from both sides. So if I do this, now that 5c over here is gone, and I just have 8 left. And on this side, I get 2c minus 2. So now I only have a variable on one side of the equation, and it looks like equations we were solving in the last section. So working backwards, we're going to add 2 to each side and get 10 equals 2c. And then divide both sides by 2 to get 5 equals c. And then we just want to check our solution. So going back to our original equation, 8 plus 5 times c, which is 5, equals 7 times c, which we said was 5, minus 2. We just want to make sure we get the same thing on both sides. So we get 8 plus 25 equals 35 minus 2. So this is 33, and this is also 33. So it does work. So our answer is c equals 5. Okay, we can do the same thing, except when we have grouping symbols, we want to distribute first. So I'm going to distribute 1/3 through both parts. So 1/3 of 18 is 6, and 1/3 of 12 is 4. So it's going to be 4q. Okay, and on this side, I'm distributing the 6 through to both the 2q and the -7. So 6 times 2q is 12q, and 6 times -7 is -42. So from here, we want to do the same thing. We want to get the variables on each side together. So I'm going to subtract 4q so that I have the variable only on one side. Here they cancel. So I get 6 equals 8q minus 42. Okay, so solving it the same way we were solving before, I want to get my constants onto the other side. So I'm going to do plus 42, and I get 48 equals 8q. And I divide both sides by 8. And 48 divided by 8 gives me 6. So q equals 6. And just checking, we want to make sure we get the same thing again. So 1/3 of 18 plus 12 times 6 equals 6 times 2 times 6 minus 7. So 12 times 6, starting there, is 72. So we get 1/3 of 18 plus 72. 2 times 6 is 12 minus 7 is 5. So, oops, I'm thinking ahead, sorry. This is 5. Okay. So 18 plus 72 is 90. And 1/3 of that equals 6 times 5 is 30. 1/3 of 90 is 30. So I get 30 equals 30, and it works. So my answer is indeed q equals 6. Okay. We might be able to find special solutions. So here, if I'm trying to solve this, I distribute on both sides. So here I get 40c minus 16. And over here, I get 320 plus 40c. Now, if I'm trying to get my variables on both sides, I'm going to subtract 40c from both sides. But when I do that, it cancels out on both sides because they both had it, and I get -16 equals 320. So we've talked about this before. When you get something that's not a true statement at the end of an equation, it means no solution. Okay. For this one, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to distribute first in both sides of the equation. So 4 times t is 4t. 4 times 20 is 80. And on this side, 1/5 of 20 is 4t. And 1/5 of 400 is 80. So when you get the same thing on both sides, so if I were to subtract 4t minus 4t, they cancel, I get 80 equals 80. When you get a true statement, that means all real numbers will work as a solution. All right, so just to summarize this concept and the steps for solving equations, step 1, you simplify the expression on each side, use the distributive property as needed. Step 2, use addition and or subtraction properties of equality to get the variables on one side and the numbers without variables on the other side and simplify. And step 3 is use multiplication or division property of equality to solve. Okay, so for this one, we want to find the value of h so that the figures have the same area. So in order to do this, we need to know what the area of a triangle is. So area is 1/2 base times height. So if we're looking at this one, I want it to be the same on both. So I want the area of triangle 1 to equal the area of triangle 2. So the area of triangle 1, 1/2 base, my base is 6, and my height is h. Okay, and for area of the triangle 2, 1/2, my base on this one is 10, and my height is h minus 2. So for this, I want to simplify this equation and figure out what h makes these true. So 1/2 of 6 is 3, so I get 3h. This here, 1/2 times 10 is 5. So I get 5 times n minus 2. Using the distributive property here, 5 times n is 5n, and 5 times -2 is -10. So now I have 3n equals 5n minus 10. So to solve this, I want to get my n's together. So I'm going to do minus 5n to both sides. If I do this, they cancel here, and I get -2n equals -10. So to solve for n, I'm going to divide both sides by -2. They cancel here, and I get n, -10 divided by -2 is 5. And so the value, sorry, I switched this from an h to an n. That's an h, the height. So the height that's going to make these areas the same is going to be 5. So our answer for this one is D. Okay, so that is the end of this lesson. I will scroll through now of the answers for the extra practice problems for you guys, and you guys can try them out, or if you feel confident, we'll work on more practice tomorrow.